Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 145. I was black here and my opponent played d4 and he played into the Richter-Veresov attack. So I played just the traditional move d5 to block the pawn. You can also get into this opening by a different move order, sort of related to the Trompowsky, if you play the knight here and the bishop there and then go with the d-pawn. So the Richter-Veresov is after knight f6. You play the move bishop g5. And in a way, this is like the Chigorin defense to the Queen's Gambit declined, but with the colors reversed. And white would have played the move c4, in this case, c5. I don't know if c5 is actually a move here. Actually, it says c5 is a move here, according to the chess engine. So we could get a completely a mirror image of the Chigorin defense. Anyway, but this is called the Richter-Veresov, and there's a couple different moves. The one I chose was e6. Probably the most solid way to play is knight bd7. And then I guess this is why I didn't... I studied this opening a bit, trying to add it to my repertoire, and I didn't see that white got a whole lot after this move. Knight f3. And you look at the statistics are in favor of black up here for the most part, although the chess engine thinks it's about even. So h6 or c6. You need I would probably play c6, but yeah, h6, kicking the bishop. Both of those look like reasonable moves. The opening book has e6. Anyway, that's not the way the game went. I forgot how black should play this. I'd given it up as white, and I had never really faced it as black, so I didn't really have an idea of how to play here. One other line I just wanted to show you. This was not played either, but bishop f5 is the main idea. And after bishop f5, according to Wikipedia, it says that Richter would play f3 here, trying to go for a big center and getting e4 in with tempo by hitting this bishop, whereas Veresov would play bishop takes f6, trying to damage black's pawn structure. So those are the two main lines after f5, and one of them is known as the Richter variation, and the other is the Veresov variation. So, but this is the Richter-Veresov at this point. So I played e6. You see, it is an opening book move, but it's a little bit too passive, and black gets a good game after e4. So I pretty much have to take. He's just got more space in the center. Knight takes. I didn't think this was leading to much because you know, a lot of material comes off here. Bishop takes, but he doesn't keep taking here. He develops his knight. And this bishop is a little bit awkwardly placed on f6, and white has a little bit of extra space in the center. So so if black plays this way, then the Richter-Veresov looks like a decent opening. Of course, you don't have to play this way. I guess knight bd7 is the move to remember if you're ever facing this. So I play a bad move here, though. So far, I mean, we're within the range of, say, a normal opening advantage for white. And I should just castle, play bishop back to e7, play knight to d7. All these are fine moves. Castle, knight d7, bishop d7. Yeah, that's another idea, bishop d7. But bishop back to e7 is also an okay move. I played the move b6, thinking, well, you know, these pieces are all lined up on the diagonal, and maybe I can get my bishop here. And the problem is it's just too slow. And bishop b5. Check was played. And now I need to play bishop d7 to block the check, or c6, both of which would interfere with his idea of getting a bishop on the diagonal. So, so because of my earlier thinking, I played the move knight d7, and now this is just actually losing. I'm down a whole pawn here. He played on in a very interesting way. He played d5, but he could have just... let's see, the chess engine likes this line, so let's check it out. Knight takes f6. Queen takes. That was with check, so I have to take. I don't have any intermezzos. And then knight e5, piling the pressure on this knight. And I can't castle here or I'll lose a piece. Queen goes back to e7. Then the queen comes to f3, putting pressure on this guy. Castle. and just a4. That's interesting. a4 and knight takes e5. So this is not material up. We have the same amount of material, but I'm just kind of tied up in knots, and this is a strong advantage for white. He's got his pieces out in attack. He can get his rooks into the game easily, and my pieces are kind of clogged up over here, so enough to give a strong advantage to, and probably winning advantage to white. So my opponent didn't play that way, but he played another good move, d5, just busting up the center. And I should have just castled here. I didn't like this idea. Castles, he takes, and I have to take back with a pawn. And this leaves me with a kind of a messed up pawn structure. I wonder if he could even play bishop to c6 here. Yeah, bishop to c6 is a move, rook b8. It just seems like this would be really good for white. So I didn't want to play that, but in avoiding that, I ended up in something worse. I played e takes d5, and after queen takes d5, I'm losing a piece, and there's just no way to prevent it. And I didn't see that. It was not clear to me at all, because I had calculated ahead of time that I could just castle, because I have a queen and a bishop defending it, and he's got a queen and a bishop attacking it. And so I did castle. So we'll get to see what happens. It says my best try is bishop takes b2. Okay, just trying to grab some material over here. Bishop takes b2, rook d1. I guess that's the problem, is that he just can pile up on this so quickly. Now rook to b8 to avoid losing the rook in the corner. Yeah, that was the other thing. After I didn't notice that after e takes d5, queen takes d5, it's not menacing the knight here so much as it's menacing the rook in the corner, and I have to waste a tempo defending the rook. So if I move the rook right away, yeah, the bishop has no moves. So if I move the rook right away, what happens then? White can just castle queenside, and now it looks like I'm never getting out of the pen with this with this piece. If I castle, I lose the piece because he's now got 3 attackers on it. And if I don't castle, what else could I play? Bishop e7, knight e5. You can just keep piling on. I can't save that piece. So I think it's because of the attack on the rook here. That's really what I missed. With the attack on the rook, I don't have time to castle, but I castled anyway. And now he could just grab here. That's one of the moves. But it turns out the move he played, castles queenside, is the top choice of the engine. You know, why go after the rook when you can win more material here in the center and keep your pieces attacking? You know, it's a bit of an excursion for the queen to come over here and grab. So now, at this point, I notice my rook is hanging, and I save it. And he can just grab a piece. And there's not much here. I try to get a little tricky with this counterattack, and he plays all the right moves along here. So I'm just losing, and it's pretty interesting that this game turns around later. Knight takes f6. These are all, if you see, these are all good choices from the computer's point of view. So he's playing well here. And now g takes f6, and we reach a break in the action. And now, for some reason, he starts playing moves that aren't quite as accurate or as good. Maybe it's because the position is quieted down and there's no obvious attacking plans. But you know, I have all these weaknesses. He just needs to get his pieces out and take my pawns and win the game. So instead, he moved his bishop to a4. Let's see. Top choices here. Knight h4, yeah, maneuvering the knight in closer to my king. Rook h to e1, getting your rook on an open file. These are all very logical moves. Knight d4, putting the knight in a central square. Also maybe heading for f5 there. Rook h to g1. Yeah, all very logical moves. So he played bishop a4. It's not like this is a losing move. He's going to keep his advantage. He's just not finding the most active way to press forward. So I give myself a little more space with c5. He plays c3. I play a6. I was just going to expand and try and lock out his bishop. He went bishop c2. Not the most active square, but it does target this pawn on h7. It's just that he needs to get another piece over. Maybe rook h to e1 to e4 to h4, something like that. Except these squares are covered by the bishop and the knight, so not so easy to get over there. Anyway, rook f to e8 I played, just putting rook on an open file. And I would go to e2 if he lets me, and he plays rook h g1, and so I do place my rook on e2, and so he's still staying in the +4 range here, so he hasn't given up any material or too much advantage. But again, each time he makes a passive move like that, his advantage goes down. See, I was attacking this pawn, and he was just defending it. He can actively defend it with rook d2, maybe force some exchanges, right? I don't want to exchange, so that would chase my rook away. So I get my bishop out and make some threats. He plays a3. And then I start marching my pawns forward on the king side. I figure, well, I've got two of my pieces active. I can activate my third piece and remove some of his pawn cover just by pushing these pawns. So I do. And he takes, and I take. And now the losing move is right here. He can't take back this pawn. He has to play, knight f3, bishop d3. He has a lot of reasonable moves. Knight f3 is just a retreating move. Rook e1, challenging my rook. That's probably the move I was most afraid of, because as I lose material, it gets harder and harder to find tricks. But anyway, yeah, he was somewhat oblivious to the dangers and just played c takes b4. And now if you look, the evaluation swang from +4 to -4, and it's going up -5, -6. So it's just because I get a pin on this bishop and he can't save it. And he goes knight f5. In addition to not being able to save it, there's now a mate and 7 on the board. So knight f5 is obviously not the best defense, but what would be? King b1 or rook e1. Yeah, challenge the rook or try and walk the king away from danger. So after the knight move, everything goes with check. And now it's mate in 6, king b1, rook takes b2, check. Now it's mate in 5, king c1, bishop e4. Still a mate in, now it's mate in 4. This is, a mating technique everybody should be familiar with. When you have 2 rooks on the 7th rank, you can often mate the king, but sometimes it's a bit tricky to, because you need to get 1 rook to the 8th rank. And so sometimes, say if the king was on this square attacking the rook, you can't just move this rook down to the 8th rank because he can come out and take that rook. So it really helps to have an extra piece or an extra pawn, in this case the bishop, to defend one of the rooks. So if this king is here on d1, you want to defend the rook on e2 and then checkmate with the other rook. But where the king is here, he's not attacking this rook. And so there's a threat of rook to b1 checkmate because you're defending the other rook, the rook on the 8th rank. So you either defend the rook on the, well, let's call him second and first. You either defend the rook on the 2nd rank if the king is attacking that, or you defend the rook on the 1st rank if the king is near that one. But you need to defend one of them to deliver a mate and get the rooks far enough apart. So it says that white could put off the mate a little bit by playing moves like king d1 or knight e7 or knight h6. These are checks. After king d1, how do I mate? King d1, bishop takes f5, rook e1, rook ed2 check, king c1, yeah, and now, sorry, rook d to c2 check, king here, and rook to b1 check. Okay, mate. So this is the example of the second technique. You defend the rook that's on the 2nd row, and you mate with the rook on the 1st row. But the way it went in the game, he played the move, knight to e3, just trying to bring the knight into a defensive position and covering this square, but it doesn't defend against rook b1 mate. And that's how it ended. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought there were a few instructive points there, and it was a new opening, so I had to I had to include it, even if the quality of the game wasn't the greatest. So leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.